from the Bay Area's local news station. We begin now with breaking news.
Breaking news tonight, the Kincade Fire in the North Bay has exploded to 16,000 acres. The fast-moving wildfire torching parts of wine country, destroying homes and threatening others in the community of Geyserville. The weather conditions are only fueling the flames. Good evening, everybody. I'm Pam Moore.
And I'm Ken Wayne. The Kincade Fire broke out at 9:47 last night near the Geysers geothermal plant. Here's what we know so far. The fire has burned 16,000 acres, and the rugged terrain is making battling the flames all the more difficult. Firefighters say the shifting winds have pushed the flames toward Geyserville, forcing mandatory evacuations in that area. People living in the northern part of Healdsburg are under an evacuation warning. 49 structures have been destroyed so far. We have team coverage for you tonight on the fire. Meteorologist Marisa Rodriguez keeping an eye on the winds, the heat, and the humidity fueling the flames.
KRON4's Michelle Kingston went to the fire line with fire crews, and our Justine Waldman went to the downtown area of Geyserville, where some people are staying behind to help the fire crews.
But first, we want to go to KRON4's Taylor Bisacki, who was at that Cal Fire news conference that just wrapped up. Taylor, what's the latest?
Well, the biggest thing here is that firefighters are making some progress. Now, we all saw as that fire exploded last night in size so quickly. After the course of the entire day, it's only grown 6,000 more acres. And firefighters say that the calmed winds and the daylight has really helped them get a handle on top of this fire. Now, at the latest update that Cal Fire just gave us within the last hour, they say that the Kincade Fire is now 16,000 acres and 5% contained. Right now, at least 49 homes are destroyed, and thankfully, there are no reports of any deaths or missing persons. 1,300 firefighters are on the line trying to get a handle on this fire, and they're expected to increase crews by 50% as early as tomorrow. Now, the Sonoma County Sheriff reminds us that those mandatory evacuations for Geyserville are still in effect. He said that there were some rumors floating around, but of course they are still in effect. Those evacuations are for 2,000 people, but the Sheriff's Office says not everyone has evacuated. But those evacuations and calmer wind conditions, Cal Fire says they were able to get a better handle on this fire as they fight it tonight. Now, here's Cal Fire summarizing that important update.
Currently, the fire stands at 16,000 acres. We have made 5% containment. We do have 49 structures confirmed destroyed. That damage assessment continues. It is not over, but that is our current count. We have over 1,300 firefighters on the line. That number is expected to go up by another 50% as early as tomorrow. We have 8 air tankers assigned, along with a very large air tanker.
Now, crews will remain on scene tonight, and the sheriff wants to remind everyone, we know that everybody's anxious to get home and worried about their homes. They say that there are deputies in those evacuated areas monitoring the area, looking over the homes, and they say the good news is that there have been no burglaries, no looting. So, of course, again, good news, but this was the last that we will hear from Cal Fire tonight, and we'll hear again from them early tomorrow afternoon. Back to you.
Taylor, I know they're expressing optimism that they're getting kind of turning a corner on this fire, but at the same time, we are concerned about more high winds in the coming days. So is there a window of opportunity that they're hoping to get this thing out before strong winds return?
Yeah, Ken, actually, they said earlier that they are optimistic, but this whole thing is a race against the clock, obviously, because of those high winds picking up on Saturday. So they know that they're running against the clock right now. They're hoping to make some serious ground tomorrow, and they say that we're just going to have to see how this goes. But they are feeling more optimistic because the daylight did give them a better handle. They were able to strategically map out this area, and now they feel that they have a better vision of where to go next.
Taylor, also, they did say there are no missing persons this time around, which was, of course, good news. No fatalities either. Nonetheless, some people are refusing to evacuate because they feel like they fire safe their homes, they have kids. How are they handling that?
Well, actually, they did bring up 2 years ago that they did have a lot of missing persons, so they were concerned about that. So this is good news this time that there are no missing persons. As for the evacuations, they say, again, as you mentioned, people are pushing back, but they say a majority of those people that are pushing back are the ones that have their homes prepared. They have these kits ready. Again, they are trying to get everybody out, but some, again, are just pushing back. But they do feel that those that have hung around are are better prepared, but like I mentioned, those deputies are in those evacuated areas, so they're making sure that they monitor and can, see people out at the very last minute if something worse were to happen.
All right, Taylor Psaki, live for us in Geyserville tonight. Taylor, thank you.
Well, of course, we've been talking about the winds. Our meteorologist, Mabrisa Rodriguez, is here to update us on conditions tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, that red flag warning has expired for the North Bay, so it does give firefighters a window of opportunity to really make a big increase, especially with that containment for the fire, because we are tracking right now pretty gusty wind speeds now that the sun has set, gusts upwards of 20 miles per hour near the Healdsburg Hills, but still dealing with a very warm air mass. And because of that, relative humidity still bone dry out there, 12%. And this is going to have a huge impact for us in the Bay Area starting as early as tomorrow morning. In fact, today we were not only under a spare the air alert, but an air quality advisory. In fact, we did see some pretty unhealthy air particles in the North Bay with some moderate air particles for those of you in the East Bay today. And tomorrow it's only going to get worse. In fact, unhealthy air particles for everyone in the Bay Area because the wind is going to shift from the northeast to the northwest, and all of that smoke and ash from the Kincade Fire is going to blanket the Bay Area tomorrow. And in addition to that, National Weather Service already jumping the gun right now on this fire weather watch that will go into effect right before our main wind event, the biggest wind event that we've seen all year long. We are tracking some pretty gusty winds in Sonoma County, upwards of 80 miles per hour or less, and most of us in the East Bay Hills and Mountains and even parts of the San Francisco Peninsula also going to see sustained winds at 30 to even 50 miles per hour. Details ahead on that, and also your full weekend outlook, tracking cooler temperatures ahead in my full forecast. Pam and Ken, back to you.
Mabrisa, thank you. Continuing our team coverage, we now want to give you an up-close look at what's happening on the fire line.
KRON4's Michelle Kingston is at an evacuation center near Healdsburg now, but she spent the day with firefighters and got right up next to the flames. Michelle, what do you have?
Yes, a lot of my day was spent up off of 128 near River Rock Casino and on Geysers Road, where unfortunately a number of homes and barns perhaps were destroyed. We're not exactly sure what those buildings are, but we can tell you that they no longer exist. It's heartbreaking up there on Geysers Road. Here in Healdsburg, the northern part, they are under an evacuation warning, which means it's not mandatory. They don't have to leave just yet, but they have to be prepared. They have to be ready. A lot of people here have those to-go bags ready to go just in case, and of course are a little uneasy about what could happen overnight. Firefighters battling flames just outside the River Rock Casino off California 128 in Geyserville. Crews are driving trucks all over Geyserville and Healdsburg, monitoring smoke and fighting the Kincade Fire.
They do their best, and so we'll just have to trust that they've got the experience in there and they're doing what they need to do.
People in northern unincorporated Healdsburg are under an evacuation warning, preparing to leave at a moment's notice.
I'm ready. I'm packed, ready to go if I need to. Yeah, just keeping an eye that 101 is going to stay open to get out, but we have a couple of options north or south. So.
Structures burned on Geysers Road, and it's unclear if these are homes or barns. Flames could still be seen on Thursday evening on properties. Overhead, crews fighting the flames from the air, doing what they can to contain the fire. Now back out here live at the Healdsburg Community Center. This is the evacuation center in the area. Earlier today, there were some reports that this place was at capacity, and that is just not true. I just spoke to people here. They say there are about 145 people that have registered to stay here tonight, and they have room for about 180. So they still have room if you need to evacuate or if you want to come here. They have charging stations. They have places for your pets, air-conditioned trailers out here. They have coffee. They have 3 meals a day, snacks and food inside. And if you have large animals, if you're afraid of farm animals that you have, where they're going to go, they are shuttling those larger animals to the fairgrounds in Santa Rosa. Back to you guys.
Yeah, Michelle, earlier this evening, one of the Sonoma County supervisors indicated that that shelter was near capacity and said that they could go to another shelter at the Veterans Hall Hall in Santa Rosa, but you're saying they still have room for maybe 40 more people?
Yes, that's correct. So earlier tonight, there were reports that it was at capacity, but that's not true. They have room for about 35 more people at this point, and they're expecting it's going to be that way for the next couple of hours. I'll, of course, continue to check in, let you know at 9 and 10 o'clock tonight if it's at capacity at that point. But at this point, if you're in the area, I would definitely stop by here first. If it is full, then make your way to Santa Rosa. But at this point, there is still room for people in the area.
All right, good news. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle Kingston live in Healdsburg. We have continuing coverage of the Kincade Fire on KRON4 News at 8. We're going to break down an interactive map to check and see if your neighborhood is in the evacuation zone. At 8:30, we'll have a live report from Geyserville. Also at that half hour, we're going to be hearing from PG&E, which says its power line may be the potential cause of this fire. We'll be right back. Continuing our breaking news coverage of the Kincade Fire in Sonoma County, downtown Geyserville has become something of a ghost town because of all the evacuations from that fire.
Yeah, KRON4's Justine Waldman has been talking with some of the people who did stay behind in Geyserville to help firefighters. Justine.
Yes, there's been an absolute pouring of support for all the first responders who are out there fighting the fire, not only all day today, but overnight tonight, and for who knows how much longer. For here in downtown Geyserville, I'm standing in the main drag where there are lots of restaurants and shops behind me. They're all closed right now and in the dark. Just a few more fire trucks right now going towards the scene. This area, though, went through an evacuation 2 years ago when we saw all those devastating wildfires in the North Bay, and they watched the geysers, the hillside right here in front of them, which is about a mile away from here, which is where the fire is burning right now. They watched that 2 years ago lit up in flames, but tonight they've just been watching a lot of smoke coming from the area. Still, though, this entire area is under an evacuation notice, and people do not know when they will allow to come back or what will be here when they're allowed to go back home. A fill up from the fire hydrant for this huge tanker truck before it heads back into the flames. In downtown Geyserville, one evacuated homeowner left the hose on, anything to protect the property. For families forced to leave early this morning, it has been a long day of uncertainty.
We want to go home and get some sleep.
As the fire inched closer, business owners closed up and tried to take with them what they could.
And I think we might not have something to come back to. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
A generator just went in for this pizza restaurant as the owner waits to see how the fire behaves.
It's pretty intense, but I don't know, we're kind of just hanging tough right now.
Through the smoke, firefighting helicopters charged overhead. Roads are closed and fire trucks raced right to the danger zone. At the Geyserville market, even with no power on inside, the owners placed free water and snacks outside for firefighters. A community coming together when it is being torn apart.
Just want to help them, they're working hard out there for us. So that's the least we could do.
Absolutely, and the restaurant owner that you saw in that story who was carrying out those big bags of pasta, trying to save what she could from her restaurant, she's taking those to the evacuation centers where she will be using all the food that she can't keep in her store, in her restaurant, to make food for first responders and people who have been evacuated, so they will get a nice hot meal, food she absolutely does not want to go to waste. In this area, though, it is coming as a comfort to people who have businesses here and homes here, that the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office is doing extra patrols to make sure that there is no looting. It is very dark, and there's still a lot of smoke in the air. Evacuation order has not been lifted, but we'll keep you posted on what's happening here. Live tonight in downtown Geyserville, I'm Justine Waldman, KRON4 News.
Justine, thank you for that report. Again, officials stress people living in Geyserville are still under a mandatory evacuation order tonight. That order affects at least 2,000 people in Geyserville and the hills east of Geyserville.
Firefighters are telling residents not to stay in the area. Also, the northern part of Healdsburg is under an evacuation warning. Crews say people living in that area should be packed up and ready to leave their homes at a moment's notice. KRON4's Grant Lotus is here to break down where these fire evacuation areas are located. Grant.
Yes, Ken and Pam, there's a map that the County of Sonoma has released, a tool for people to help navigate them through this tough time. Take a look. There are several different areas and colors that are shaded. I'll walk you through it. First of all, the mandatory evacuation center is this outlined area in brown here, light tan, if you will. That is where people have been told to leave their homes. And I'll zoom in here. You see the town of Geyserville, right, as it is along Highway 128. Here's the Russian River. That, of course, is in the mandatory evacuation area. And you see these areas in the light red, rose-colored. Those are spots where PG&E has preemptively shut off the power. So you see how much of Sonoma County is de-energized as we speak. Certainly several areas within the burn zone, and that burn zone is illustrated here with these red dots. The fire started up here near Burned Mountain, just right near, here's Cobb Mountain for perspective. Here's the town of Cobb and Anderson Springs. And then the fire burned down this way. It burned to the south and to the west, and that is why there was such concern for the little town of Geyserville right here that the fire would continue going that way, and this is where they're making a stand, trying to prevent the fire from encroaching on that area. You can also search by address here if you want to know about a particular location, upper left-hand side. We've posted a link to this map on KRON4.com. We also have evacuation centers listed there. Those have, of course, been set up to help people who have been forced out of their homes. By the way, the Healdsburg Evacuation Center is at capacity at last check. So in case people have left, which we hadn't heard, that evacuation center is full, but there are plenty of others for folks to go to. Pam and Ken, back to you.
All right, Grant, thank you. Again, we have the evacuation centers listed here for you on your screen, along with the addresses. And you can also be sure to check KRON4.com for the very latest information regarding the fire as well as the evacuations.
All right, continuing our breaking news coverage on the fire in Sonoma County, the Kincade Fire.
We're joined now by Gail Ong, live tonight, reporting also in the fire zone. Gail.
Pam and Ken, we're in Geyserville, about 4 miles away from I'm standing, is where it was hit the worst. This stove is about the only thing left standing in what was just hours ago someone's home.
It's pretty sad. It's devastating, actually.
We were there when Alex Singh went to check on his friend's home on Geysers Road in Geyserville.
It's heartbreaking. You know, we don't think anything could happen to so close to home, but this is it.
The aftermath of the Kincade Fire. At least 3 homes went up at its worst. The air was filled with smoke and embers swirling.
The wind. There was no wind when I went to bed, and at this time maybe 50-mile-an-hour winds, but it wasn't a blowing wind. It wasn't a gusting wind. It was like a windstorm, circular.
It started late Wednesday night and quickly got out of control.
You could see the glow, but at that time it looked as though it was probably going to head northwest. Yeah.
Incredibly, everyone got out ahead of the flames. Firefighters did everything they could to save homes, but strong winds and dry conditions threatened the entire community.
We thought it was going away, but apparently it's not. So hopefully they have it contained pretty good.
Now, the family in one of those homes destroyed, we're told they're at a safe place, as well as the family you just heard from, the friend who was checking on that home. Again, this place is still under mandatory evacuation orders, and as we've heard, it could take days to put out this fire. We're live here in Sonoma County. Gail Ong, KRON4 News.
All right, Gail, thank you very much.
All right, well, let's get some more information on what's happening with our weather. Maurice is back with an update.
Yeah, unfortunately, wind gusts in that area, 20 miles per hour or less. So that's great news for firefighters tonight and even through tomorrow as well. So hopefully they really do get the upper hand on the flames there with that Kincade Fire, because I am tracking right now cooler temperatures, but still a relatively warm air mass out there right now, 73 degrees with that humidity level staying steady at 12%. And record-breaking heat today in the Bay Area. In fact, we broke a few records and tied the record out there in Richmond, and today's daytime highs upper 70s and even some upper 80s and low 90s as well for most of the Bay Area. So we were a good 15 to 25 degrees above average, and we actually do have a fire weather watch that will go into effect starting this weekend. And let's take a live look outside, and you can see City Hall lit up in blue and gold this evening for the Warriors game tonight against the LA Clippers. So let's go Dubs. Hopefully they get the W today. Temperatures out there right now, widespread 70s. So starting to cool down. Novato 68 degrees thanks to those calmer wind speeds. Cooler temperatures, especially for those of you in Napa, about 10 degrees cooler than where you were just 24 hours ago. Now that the winds are shifting more from the north and now into the east. But overnight lows tonight cooling down into the 50s and 60s, and tomorrow's daytime highs some relief, but still going to be well above average. We're going to be about 10 to 15 degrees above normal. So widespread low to mid and upper 80s, even some low 90s for those of you in Concord and Antioch. Novato and Santa Rosa also in the low 90s for your afternoon highs. And here's that fire weather watch that we're keeping an eye on starting Saturday night through Monday. Could see gusts upwards of 80 miles per hour or less in the Sonoma County hills, with everyone else seeing sustained winds at 30 to 50 miles per hour, but cooler temperatures this weekend and even a dry forecast for your Halloween outlook next Thursday. Ken and Pam, back to you.
Thank you, Mabrisa. Keep it here. More breaking news coverage of the Kincade Fire in Sonoma County after the break. And if you want to skip the commercials and get more news during the break, make sure you're streaming us on KRON4. Right now, the app is free due to this public safety event. Just download the KRON4 app to start watching right now. Continuing our breaking news coverage, we're not the only ones facing fires right now in Los Angeles County. The so-called tick fire has been burning since early this afternoon. Firefighters are protecting homes from the wind-whipped fire flames that are roaring right now towards subdivisions in Santa Clarita. That's just north of Los Angeles on I-5. LA County officials say the fire has grown to about 5,000 acres in just a few hours in what's called the Canyon Country area. We have seen some homes burning and some evacuations are underway. Heavy smoke is shrouding the area, which you can see here is consuming the hills that surround many of the neighborhoods.
Fire crews wrestling with rugged terrain in much of their battle with the Kincade Fire. When we come back, a report from one of our reporters who has seen what they are up against.
Continuing our breaking news coverage, firefighters are facing some tough terrain to try to get to the flames of the Kincade Fire. That fast-moving blaze has been burning through a number of hillsides near Cobb Mountain, forcing crews to depend on airdrops as their fire trucks try to navigate some narrow dirt roads.
And it's always more difficult at night, as we know, to fight these fires. KRON4's Dan Thorne has been working to get close to the front lines. He joins us live near Geyserville with more. Dan.
Well, Pam and Ken, right now I'm in a fueling area where fire crews have been coming in and out, filling up on gasoline and also diesel if they need that for their engines. This is an area that's right off of River Road, just east of Geyserville. But as you mentioned, in this firefight, that terrain has definitely been tough. Some crews having to go hundreds of feet down hillsides in order to fight the flames. The added danger to that has been that this fire has been burning trees and tree limbs, so those have been breaking off. So it's been crucial for crews to be out here wearing their helmets in many of these areas. They've also have been depending on airdrops from helicopters to help put out the fire in many of these difficult spots. And from where I've been seeing the firefight happening, again, this is just east of Geyserville near some Alexander Valley vineyards, including Zyalina Winery, which is along River Road. That road is closed off along with several others in the area. So pretty much all roads that are off of River Road have been closed down. Well, just before the sun went down tonight, you could see an eerie red glow in the sky from the smoke. Now it's pretty difficult to see much of anything other than the little orange blips of fire that are in the darkness. But right now, several crews have been out here helping out in this firefight, and they are working to get it knocked out as quickly as possible. We've been working to get close to some of these fire lines, but it's just been difficult because of the danger, not only for the crews that are already out there, but also the people that are trying to get images of what's been happening here. But we've been heeding those warnings, and they're hoping that other people heed those warnings and understand that these evacuation orders have not been lifted, so you cannot return to these areas. And we will, of course, continue to bring you any more updates from out in this area.
All right, Dan Thorne reporting outside of Geyserville for us. Thank you very much, Dan.
All right, well, Mabrisa is back. She has the latest details on the humidity levels. Of course, that has a big, that contributes a lot to what this fire is helping to fuel as well, not just the winds, but the humidity.
Yeah, and we've seen the humidity levels steady at 12% all day, but it's interesting how they dropped tonight just because of the gustier wind speeds and still a warm air mass out there right now for firefighters battling that Kincade fire. So right now, with those current conditions in the 70s, relative humidity down to 11%. The lowest that I've seen all day long and all night long for that matter. And that's because of those wind gusts right now ticking up to 21 miles per hour. So fortunately, it's going to stay in that 20 mile per hour range throughout tonight. Not going to be as gusty as that 75 mile per hour range that they saw last night when that fire sparked. And let's take a look at our Bay Area forecast. No marine layer in sight and still tracking a warm air mass for us here closer to home. Widespread 70s and dropping to 68 degrees because of those lack of northerly winds. For those of you in Novato, you're the coolest location right now, believe it or not. Half Moon Bay still at 81 degrees, as is Fremont. So we are tracking a cooler air mass tonight, but still relatively warm, even by October standards. Widespread upper 50s and low 60s for our overnight lows. And our microclimate forecast for our Friday still going to be above average, about 10 to 15 degrees above normal, but not tracking any record-breaking heat. Some of us some relief in sight, but overall not that much. Downtown San Francisco, 84 degrees. Half Moon Bay in the low 80s. Brisbane to Burlingame, 84 degrees for your afternoon highs. Redwood City in the upper 80s, as is Mountain View with low 90s for parts of the South Bay, including Morgan Hill and Cupertino, but San Jose, 88 degrees for your Friday afternoon. 87 degrees for Hayward with upper 80s, even in the interior valleys as well. Low 90s for parts of the Tri-Valleys like Concord, but Oakland 86 degrees with widespread 80s for the North Bay at 87 degrees, but Santa Rosa still going to hang tight in the low 90s at 92 degrees. So we do have a fire weather watch that will go into effect Saturday night through Monday morning because of gusty wind speeds, the strongest wind event that we've seen all year long, and it's going to be just as strong as that 2017 wine country fires that we saw. And we are tracking cooler temperatures though, so that is the good news right there, and dry conditions through Halloween next Thursday. Back to you.
Mabrisa, thank you. Today, Governor Gavin Newsom saying that he takes ownership of the power shutoffs that have left hundreds of thousands of people in the dark in the middle of these high fire danger conditions. Speaking in Los Angeles today, the governor blasted PG&E and other utilities in the state for failing to modernize their electrical systems. He says shutting off power should not have to be the alternative.
I must confess, it is infuriating beyond words to live in a state as innovative and extraordinarily entrepreneurial and capable as the state of California, to be living in an environment where we are seeing this kind of disruption and these kinds of blackouts.
Over the last couple of weeks, you may recall, PG&E has said that these public safety power shutoffs could go on for another 10 years. However, the governor says it is on him to make sure the power blackouts do not continue. And then just hours after the governor spoke, we learned that PG&E had a problem with a transmission tower located near the Kincade fire.
The utility company filed a report with the State Public Utilities Commission about that problem. It also held a news conference to talk about it. KRON4's Grant Lotus joins us now in the studio with what PG&E is saying about all of this.
Certainly a problem. Did PG&E cause the fire? We don't know yet, but that is obviously something that people will be closely investigating in the days to come. The utility says it is still too soon to know whether it's faulty equipment started the fire, but in a report to the California Public Utilities Commission, which you see here, PG&E says it learned of a transmission level outage, is what they're calling it, in the Geysers area around 9:20 last night. That is 7 minutes before CAL FIRE responded to the Kincade fire. The CPUC also says around 7:30 this morning, a PG&E employee patrolling that area saw that CAL FIRE had taped off the area around the base of the transmission tower, and a CAL FIRE official told the PG&E employee there appeared to be a broken jumper, sort of an electrical connector on the tower. And in a statement, the utility says while PG&E distribution lines in these areas were de-energized, distribution lines go to homes and businesses, the big transmission lines that are connected to the towers were not de-energized because Weather conditions, wind speeds did not trigger the protocol that causes PG&E to cut power. Wasn't intense enough. PG&E's president and CEO Bill Johnson defended the decision.
There was a fault on the line, which means something happened and it de-energizes itself. And then when you look at it physically, you can see a wire that's mispositioned, a jumper. Now this tower is 43 years old, which is pretty common in the industry. That's not an old tower. It has been inspected 4 times in the last 2 years. In 2019, it was inspected by climbing, and it was inspected by drone, which is a very good way to inspect. Several minor maintenance things that were fixed, except for one, which was painting. So we didn't paint it yet. But it appears to have been in excellent condition, recently inspected. And so we're just going to have to wait for the results of our investigation at CAL FIRE to learn more about that.
Again, too soon to know whether PG&E's faulty equipment is responsible for starting the wildfire. PG&E says it is working now with CAL FIRE to try to get that answer. CAL FIRE investigators certainly looking at it. And all the power has been restored to all of the customers from the power shutoff, except for people in Kern County. At least they have given the all clear and are, inspecting the lines. Contra Costa County officials have announced that PG&E is now planning a power outage throughout Contra Costa County, at least in several areas within that county, starting Saturday at 10 o'clock at night, lasting through Monday at 2 in the afternoon. Due to strong winds and dry conditions. I just got an email saying they might shut mine off. I don't live in Contra Costa County, so you have to imagine with winds forecasted gusting up to 80 miles an hour, PG&E is going to be looking at several locations and counties throughout the Bay Area for this next round of potential shutoffs. Ken and Pam, back to you.
Thank you, Grant. You can continue watching our coverage of the wildfires by skipping the commercials and tuning in to KRON4, the Bay Area's only 24-hour local streaming news service. Due to the public emergency threat from the PG&E power shutoffs and the fires, we're offering KRON4 for free. You can download it now from the App Store to stay informed, even when the power goes out. Continuing our breaking news coverage of the Kincade Fire in Sonoma County, there are several school closures due to the fires in Sonoma County. We have a full list on our website, KRON4.com, that we are continually updating, and the list is also running on the bottom of our screen, as you see there.
And our continuing coverage of the Sonoma County fire continues after the break. You can stay with our coverage, though, during the commercial breaks by downloading the KRON4 app right now for free.
Continuing our breaking news coverage of the fire in Sonoma County, the Kincade Fire.
We're joined now by Gail Ong, who's live in Geyserville tonight. Gail.
Pam and Ken, we're in downtown Geyserville, about 4 miles away from where I'm standing. Homes consumed by the flames. The aftermath of the Kincade Fire. At least 3 homes went up at its worst. The air was filled with smoke and embers swirling.
The wind. There was no wind when I went to bed, and at this time maybe 50-mile-an-hour winds, but it wasn't a blowing wind. It wasn't a gusting wind. It was like a wind storm, circular.
It started late Wednesday night and quickly got out of control.
You could see the globe, but at that time it looked as though it was probably going to head northwest. Yeah.
Incredibly, everyone got out ahead of the flames. Firefighters did everything they could to save homes, but strong winds and dry conditions threatened the entire community.
We thought it was going away, but apparently it's not. So hopefully they have it contained pretty good.
This stove is about the only thing left standing in what was just hours ago someone's home.
It's pretty sad. It's devastating, actually.
We were there when Alex Singh went to check on his friend's home on Geysers Road in Geyserville.
It's heartbreaking. You don't think anything could happen to so close to home, but this is it.
Now the winds have died down tonight, so that should give firefighters an upper hand. This area continues to be under mandatory evacuation orders. We're told the family of that home destroyed is at a safe place. We're live in Geyserville. Gail Ong, KRON4 News.
Thank you, Gail. Well, some large animals evacuating from the fire zone, also in need of emergency shelter.
The Sonoma County Fairgrounds ready to receive hundreds of animals if that's necessary. KRON4's Hazik Madyoun has the information that farmers and ranchers need to know.
Large animals evacuated from the Kincade Fire will find emergency shelter here at the Sonoma County Fairgrounds in Santa Rosa. And there is plenty of space, up to 800 stalls to accommodate animals here, says the CEO of the Sonoma County Fairgrounds, Becky Bartling.
So the county asked us last night to activate the facility for large animals, evacuation of large animals, around midnight last night. And we had our first horses come in around 2. We have around 43 horses here now. We've got 2 mules, a donkey, a couple African cranes, and now a potbelly pig. Yes, so we have a check-in staff that takes all your information. We put that information on the stall. You are required to make sure you come back and take care of your animals and feed and water them and take care of that.
She says during the 2017 wildfire, the fairground sheltered as many as 500 animals.
In 2017, some people weren't able to evacuate, and they turned their animals out into the pasture, which actually worked out well. I'm not advocating for people to do that. But I think in this case there was enough notice. The county did a good job of notifying people.
Officials here say the Sonoma County Fairgrounds will remain open to receive animals needing shelter as long as they are needed. In Santa Rosa, Hazik Medyoun, KRON4 News.
Meantime, the Healdsburg Community Center opened up for people for fire evacuees just after midnight.
Yeah, there was some confusion earlier today, as can happen in these situations, that the center was at capacity. But a Red Cross official says late this evening there is still room to shelter more people.
KRON4's Maureen Kelly talked to some who arrived early after they had to flee their homes.
In addition to getting shelter and food here, the Red Cross is also providing mental health services for adults and children, since for many this is not the first time in recent memory they've had to flee their homes with whatever they could grab at a moment's notice.
We're here to offer a comforting place for our neighbors that are going through traumatic things, and even people that have went through the Tubbs fire. This is bringing back the memories, so we want to make sure that it's a nice place to come.
I talked to one couple who lost their home 2 years ago in the Pocket Fire, and now once again they were forced to flee with their dogs, although this time in the RV they now live in, since they've yet to rebuild.
I'm hoping that third time won't be the charm. I hope that this is enough, because unfortunately it looks like this is going to be the new California.
This time, North Bay Animal Services brought out their mobile shelter to help house some of the pets, like these trembling chihuahuas, who can get fresh water, food, and cuddles. It's a service that helps their owners as well.
I think they like having someone to take their animals so they can focus on themselves and focus on what's going on and what they're going to do next.
Some pet owners say they wouldn't be here if they couldn't bring their furry companions.
It's very important to us. I mean, they're part of the family. I mean, it'd be like leaving your kids.
Donations have been dropped off here at the shelter. 1 truckload of supplies coming down from Ukiah, brought by women who say they were burned out 2 years ago, bringing products they know from experience will be welcomed by fire evacuees.
When I went to a location in Lakeport, this is all the stuff they had, so I didn't go off of a list, but I tried.
I spoke to a Red Cross spokesperson here who says they have not turned any of those donations away, and they appreciate the spirit in which they've been given, but they really don't have the staff here to deal with a lot of goods being dropped off. They would prefer people looking to help fire victims donate cash to the Red Cross. They say any amount will help, no matter how small. Reporting from Healdsburg, I'm Maureen Kelly, KRON4 News.
You can continue watching our coverage of the wildfires and skip the commercials by tuning in to KRON4, the Bay Area's only 24-hour local streaming news service. And due to the public emergency threat from the PG&E power shutoffs and the fires, we're offering KRON4 for free. You can download it now from the App Store to stay informed, even when the power goes out. We'll be right back.
Fire crews on the ground, firefighters in the air, all coordinating their efforts to deal with these fires threatening California.
KRON4's Rob Flatabo reports from CAL FIRE's Air Attack Base in Hollister.
Fire
arrived here in Hollister as this air tanker was returning from helping douse a vegetation fire near Muir Beach in Marin County Thursday. One of 2 such planes based here in Hollister. The Grumman S-2T tankers and support crews are on high alert this weekend ahead of more red flag fire weather, says Captain Tom Firth.
Yes, definitely so. I know in the south, at least, where we're located, they've done a staffing pattern and held all of our personnel on duty, so we're ready to go for any fire that starts in this area within our initial attack response area.
The goal is to have at least one of these planes or a helicopter over a fire within 20 minutes of its being reported. Just back from the Marin County fire, this air tanker is then hot loaded with another 1,200 gallons of fire retardant in under 5 minutes flat. Captain Firth is on board a smaller plane high above the fire, acting as a kind of airborne air traffic controller, coordinating with firefighters on the ground.
So my job is to fly in the OV-10 and fly up above the other aircraft, the tankers and the helicopter, and make sure there's aerial separation between them. I also guide the tankers and the helicopters in where to drop and work with the ground resources incident commander to make sure our aerial resources are working together with the ground resources to help mitigate the fire wherever it may be.
Firefighting is risky business, period, especially from the air. But Captain Firth says the men and women who fly these air tankers are some of the best pilots in the business.
Yeah, it's risky, but that's our job, and my job is to maintain the safety of the aircraft, so we're all on alert, making sure we look out for power lines. The pilots aren't going to fly through smoke, and being cognizant of the mountainous terrain that they're flying into, so we aren't going to take any undue risks, but they also will do what they have to do to mitigate the fire.
In Hollister, Rob Flattabo, KRON4 News.
And that wraps up KRON4 News tonight at 8.
But stay right there. Our breaking news coverage will continue with Grant Lotus and Vicky Libiakis on KRON4 News at 9.